Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Well. According to this article, it appears that Wall Street is all of a sudden in love with annuities. I wonder why.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money. The Worry-Free Retirement with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
After nearly 40 years in the financial trenches and in meeting with more than 15,000 savers, one thing I've noticed is the rather peculiar way the financial world represents to savers their one-size-fits-all approach to money. The predictable storyline from 401k custodians, money managers, and yes, even know-it-all financial entertainers on radio, TV, and the internet reveals that in many cases, none of these folks has a clue about the field of retirement planning, as their constant mantra of accepting risk and uncertainty is just part of the retirement planning equation. That is, up until recently, as I've noticed more and more of these same folks who for years have bashed annuities as something people should avoid at all costs, now interestingly enough are starting to share glowing remarks about them. So why the sudden change of heart about annuities? Well, it's really quite simple. The reason so many 401k custodians, stockbrokers, and yes, even a few financial entertainers are starting to see the light. And they must admit that when it comes to the greatest fear of retirees today, that is, the fear of one day running out of money, there's only one financial product, and one product only, that can guarantee that won't happen. The product? Annuities. So why is it taking so long for others to appreciate something I learned more than 20 years ago about these wonderful tools called annuities and how they fit into the retirement planning landscape? Well, let's find out. Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, the annuity king himself, retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And today I'm going to share with you the details of why the big boys handling your 401k, who for years have bashed these products known as annuities, are now so excited to sell them to you. But before we tell you why, let me introduce to you in the studios, as always, on this April 11th, 2022, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you this morning?
I'm doing really, really well, actually.
Tony, let me interrupt you. You said 2022. We're in 2023.
2022.
You said April 11th, 2022.
Man.
I'm just letting you know.
Yeah. So am I doing well?
I think you're okay. I think you're okay.
See,
everybody gets one.
That's why I have you in the studio. How long have you been in the studio with me now? How long have you been doing this show?
Well, let's see. We're in April. In June, it'll be 10 years.
Golly. See, there you go, folks. You got to have a sidekick in your life to catch those kind of mistakes. So thank you, Aaron. All right, Aaron, we think about this. How long have you heard me talking about annuities? Surely that whole 10 years.
Well, let's see. In June, it'll be 10 years since I've heard you talk about annuities.
Okay, but, and I know you're not really on the Tony Walker financial side. We have two corporations I run here. This is called the Worry-Free Production side. Mr. Aaron Orander, Derek Hudson, Gina Tutwiler. Actually, my favorite son-in-law, Trey, works in some digital areas. My favorite daughter, Lacey, does some social media. So really, we have 5 employees on the Worry-Free Production side. Then the Tony Walker financial side, we have a total of 15 employees there that really kind of runs the ship in terms of handling money. So Worry-Free Productions, I like to call it, Aaron, our communications arm for Tony Walker Financial. Is that probably a good way to put it?
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, so Aaron, for instance, is not really on the Tony Walker Financial side, but you've heard me lately, Aaron. In fact, I showed you a bunch of articles as we prepare the show. There's a lot of people out there who for years never would have even touched annuities, even bad-mouthed them, and here they are starting to sell them. Interesting, isn't it?
Interesting.
And I think, folks, you've got to understand something. Here's why. This is just my theory on this. Why are all of these folks all of a sudden starting to sell annuities when just a few years ago, they basically told people to stay away from them. Well, here's the main reason. In 2023, okay, we've shared this statistic. It's still going on. I think they anticipate it's going to start eventually going down, but right now there's 10,000 people turning 65 every day. You've heard the statistic, right, Aaron?
Yes.
Okay. Now, folks, traditionally, the 401k has always been managed by Wall Street and has always included pretty risky investments, mainly stocks and bonds. And in 2022, we saw both of those asset classes drop dramatically. Now, the stock market always goes down. In fact, I always call it the 7-year itch. I mean, I've been in this business since 1984. In 87, it dropped tremendously. 1994, it dropped tremendously. 2001, we know what happened then during 9/11. 2008, that was the worst drop. I mean, some people lost 50, 60% of their 401k. 2015 actually was a pretty big drop. And of course, 2022, depending on where you were invested, saw as much as a 30% drop in these 401ks, which, Aaron, if at your age, you're in your 40s, I mean, if you experienced a 30, 40, 50% drop and you were in the stock market, I mean, you've got time on your side, right? How would you really feel about that if you were 42? Let's try to put yourself in the place of where I'm going with this conversation.
Yeah. So I'm 42 now. It wouldn't be the end of the world to me, but going back to when I first started with you, I remember you showing me a particular clip from a 60 Minutes article or a 60 Minutes segment about, 2008 and what everybody lost. And I remember just being heartbroken. There was a.
Oh, well, by the way, you think you could find that clip? Can we play that real quick?
Probably, yeah.
Let's let that clip roll. I'm sure we've got that. We've played it before. Yeah, Derek's producing the show. Derek, yeah, I think we've got that queued up there. Let it roll.
Until she lost her job, Kathleen Coleman had spent nearly 30 years working as an executive assistant on Wall Street. She doesn't have much to show for it.
Tell me about your 401k.
Another one went down almost $40,000. One was
Right.
88,000, and then it went down to like 50. Need a babysitter?
And that part right there, Tony, the part where the lady says, "Do you need a babysitter?" I remember watching that for the first time and I was heartbroken, and it scared me to death. I was like, oh my gosh, look at this lady. She's, advertising herself as a babysitter, and she was making tons of money.
Oh, yeah, you can tell it's a white-collar situation. Okay, so, but maybe you could tolerate it and handle the risk. Now, fast forward, imagine you're 62, 63, Aaron, and all of a sudden you look up and your 401k is down 30 or 40%. Are you going to be looking for something safer? Or if you call up your stockbroker or the 401k and they say, hang in there, which is what they probably told you when you're 42, but what's your response if you call up your broker and they say, hang in there?
I'd say, well, I guess my wife Jessica can babysit if we need it, if we need the money,
So, folks, this is the problem, and Wall Street has finally realized with so many people retiring now, the advice of hang in there, which maybe worked when somebody was 40 or even 50 years of age, because they really do have time on their side, and the market eventually always comes back. I know that. But, folks, this is a retirement planning show. This is not an investment show. We're not trying to grow your money at all costs. We're not trying to push stocks and bonds and mutual funds. And what we're trying to help people do is understand, especially if you're a saver, more concerned about the return of your money than on it, how to position your money so that it'll last as long as you do. And folks, listen, the only product, I'm going to say it again, that will do this is annuities, which is why you're hearing more and more about annuities, which basically is the only asset that can provide that beloved
mailbox money.
So when we return, our title of the show is called Why Annuities, Why Now? And I'm going to share with you some interesting things I'm seeing out there as more and more evidence of why more and more people are selling annuities and why you as the consumer better have a plan in place before jumping ship and buying an annuity that you don't understand, or worse yet, you get stuck in. I'm Tony Walker. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name's Juanita Jackson, and I assist clients at Tony Walker Financial with investment accounts open through Charles Schwab. When opening an investment account, we always suggest you use a personal email address for all correspondence between you, Charles Schwab, and Tony Walker Financial. In other words, don't use a work or company email address, especially if you're nearing retirement. This will avoid having to change the email address associated with your account once you retire. Should you have any questions about the investment department, please feel free to reach out to me at Juanita@TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Did you know that you can watch the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money anytime you want? The show's called The Worry-Free Retirement. It's hosted by Tony Walker, and it's available on YouTube. All you got to do is go to youtube.com, and right there in the search bar, type in Tony Walker Financial, and you'll see Tony's smiling face. Click on that, and you're going to find all types of video content. Again, that's youtube.com, Tony Walker Financial.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Generally, at this point in the show, we usually have something called a Tony in the Trenches. But this is kind of a question from a, shall we say, a consumer who's interested in money and retirement. But this one came from YouTube. I was kind of searching for just different stuff on there. I like to see what others are sharing out there. This particular YouTube video, by the way, we're with America's favorite financial sidekick, Aaron Orender. So, Aaron, this particular video, it was a call-in show. Okay, this was a radio call-in show with a financial entertainer. Someone calls in and asks the following question. It's real simple. Here it was. Should I put an annuity inside my pre-tax IRA? Okay, so before I answer this question from the financial entertainer, what a lot of times people are wondering about, folks, an annuity is what's called a tax-deferred instrument. In other words, you can put the money in, it's tax-deferred, and you have to pay ordinary income taxes when you go to take it out, anything that it's grown to. So a lot of people, and I don't know why they think this way, it makes no sense, but just because it's tax deferred, we're going to see how this financial entertainer answered it. People always answer it this way. It's the incorrect answer. They always assume that if it's tax deferred, why would you put it in a pre-tax account? So exactly what this financial entertainer said. Aaron, the financial entertainer, didn't bat an eye. He went, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard of, and said, why would you put a tax deferred instrument in a pre-tax account? Now, folks, as someone who did a lot of live TV, in fact, from 2007 through 2013, I was on a live television show every week on a major network up here in Louisville, Kentucky. In fact, fortunately, that's where I met America's favorite financial sidekick. So, Aaron, what was your title and position? Because I barely knew you back then. What were you doing at this TV station at that time?
Oh, I was just behind the scenes. My official title was, I think, director associate, production associate, whatever. Yeah. And I did it all. Camera man, audio person. I put your phone number up on the screen probably a million times. I had it by heart before I even worked for you, I think.
Okay, so of the literally probably over 7 years, I guess I got hundreds of questions. Did you ever hear me say something like, well, it might depend? How would I answer a lot of those questions when we get these point-blank questions?
Well, Tony, one of the biggest things I noticed about you was your honesty. If you didn't know, you didn't try to hem-haw. But I will give you this. You didn't just go, well, I don't know. Next caller, please. You would always say, I'm not sure about that, but let me find out. Or you might even say, Connie in my office might know that. Let me reach out to her during the commercial break and I'll see. You never left anybody hanging.
Well, I appreciate you saying that because I think that's the key. I want to be honest with people. I want to be truthful. Folks, this financial world is a huge world. And contrary to what a lot of people want you to believe, nobody's got this whole world figured out, including yours truly, nor male, female, I don't care who they are on the internet, radio, TV, that thinks they do. And the more they know it all, the more they talk down to you or say that that's the most ridiculous thing or whatever. There's some financial entertainers, Aaron, and they fall in line with Wall Street. They'll even say, well, the reason somebody's recommending that product because they make a commission. Well, that might be the case, but does that mean it's a bad product? In fact, next week, we're going to talk about that. The title of next week's program, this is going to be really interesting, is why Wall Street hates commissions. Okay? It may sound like an oxymoron. You're going to really understand, and you're also going to understand why all of a sudden Wall Street is selling annuities because, and I said this years ago, Aaron, to our staff, I said, Wall Street always bashes annuities. I said, if they can figure out a way to make money on these products and not make it through commissions, they will sell these in a heartbeat. Well, guess what's coming out right now, Aaron? Non-commissionable annuities that the Wall Street folks or advisors can charge fees on. So that's why they're going to start selling them, folks. And you'll find this out next week. I'm going to show you how they're actually going to make even more money selling annuities than had you bought it from somebody that charged a commission, so to speak. So it's really interesting stuff what's going on. So let's get back to why they're doing it now, though. Why are Wall Streeters, stockbrokers, and money managers, why are they all of a sudden saying, well, these aren't that bad? Well, let me find the article here. I'm sifting through my paper here. Really interesting article. This came out in the New York Times, February 7th, 2023. And here's the headline. Listen to this. Aaron, you would have never seen these headlines 5 or 6 years ago. For more certainty in your retirement portfolio means investments, consider annuities. Interesting, isn't it? Okay. So it goes on down. This is what's really interesting. They interview a young lady by the name of Shannon Stone. Apparently she's a wealth advisor in Redwood City, California anyway. But I love what she admits. She calls herself, in quotes, a former annuity hater.
Don't be hating.
She didn't pull any punches. Got to appreciate the young lady's honesty. But here's what she said, and we'll get to this next week more. This is really interesting. This is her excuse for now loving annuities, apparently. She says, with the rise of lower costs and commission-free annuities, she has increasingly turned to them for certain clients to further diversify their portfolio out of bonds. So we've been saying this for years, folks. In fact, the famous article by a gentleman by the last name of Ibbotson, a well-known investor, studied these effects of bonds and what happens to bonds when interest rates go up and how they can lose value like they did in 2022. And what he compared the bonds to was something called fixed indexed annuities, which we've used for years. And he found that the fixed indexed annuities easily outperform bonds because fixed indexed annuities don't have interest rate risk like bonds. And now she's immediately saying that, well, you can get these fixed indexed annuities, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on and on. And here's what she says. Okay, and Aaron, and I'm not picking on the young lady, but this is what's interesting. She says of these annuities, okay, which she was a former annuity hater, it's a great way I have found for people who are open to them to bring a piece of certainty, I love that word, certainty that they can point to and say, and she puts in quotes, this is coming from the saver now, this will be there if I need it. Now, she's described an annuity. Annuities have been like that all the time. You see what I'm saying, Aaron?
Right.
Why all of a sudden would you admit or you have this pontification that you're the only one that's figured this out? It's like, folks, we've been doing these products for 20 plus years for the very same reason Ms. Stone just said you ought to have them, to bring certainty if you need the money. Now, I can't help it if they've come up with commission-free annuities and now she's decided to sell them for commission-free, because you got to ask yourself, well, then how's she going to get paid? Well, again, we'll talk about that next week. And what you're going to find is Wall Street, now that they figured out how to sell these products without commission, actually will make a ton more money than had they charged a commission. When I come back, more evidence that more and more advisors and people are going to talk to you about annuities and why you, as a saver, have to be prepared to understand what these annuities are, what types of annuities fit your situation, and a new glossary of terms I've come up with, 4 different asset classes that nobody's talking about, that's going to really help you understand not only investments, like what we might offer through Charles Schwab, but the 3 different types of annuities on top of those investments. Great stuff coming your way. I'm Tony Walker. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back.
My name is Patty Jarbo.
Robert Jarbo.
We live in Louisville, Kentucky.
Well, I had a saving plan, like when I was working, a long time ago. Probably the worst year I can remember was like 2008. Oh my gosh, it was the stock market just fell out.
Pretty much every time the stock market would crash, I would stress out and probably cry, and every single day I was on the phone looking at the stock market.
And I just said, what am I going to do now? I'm getting older, and I lost half my money. That's when I started thinking, I need an exit plan here. I'm getting tired of being older, and I'm getting tired of trying to deal with this every day. So looking for an exit plan. And that's where Tony came in.
The more he mentioned Tony Walker, the better I felt. And once we did go see Tony Walker, it pretty much took all of the anxiety, all of the stress. It just took it away from me, especially when he told us and showed us the amount we were going to get each month, and I was ready to sign the paper right then and there, and I think we did. In retirement, it's made traveling a little more of a common language here. My very first international trip was in Europe, and we went from France to London, enjoyed that thoroughly. We have pretty much covered most of the islands in the Caribbean. We were actually even married on a cruise ship in Hawaii. We definitely have traveled and planned a lot more traveling.
And for my 70th birthday, we're going to
Italy and Greece.
Italy and Greece, yes.
Now that we know we have a steadier income.
We're going from a saver to a spender. We're going to eat the good bacon.
Exactly.
With the uncertainty of the stock market, our nation's debt spiraling out of control, and inflation running rampant, now may be the best time to consider moving your 401k to safer territory. My name is Tony Walker, and for over 38 years, I've made it my life's mission to help savers worry less about money, and I want to help you too. To speak with me at no cost or obligation, why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Looking to roll over your 401k? Then log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and learn just how easy it is to roll over and safeguard your 401k. Do it today. The theme of our show today, why annuities, why now? And the reason I decided to do this show at this time was due to the fact that with millions of Americans hitting retirement every day, more advisors than ever before, who probably most of them previously hated annuities, now seem to suddenly love them. We talked about an article even from a former annuity hater, self-prescribed annuity hater, and why she's starting to love these annuities and offering them. And again, folks, the reason I'm bringing this up is just last week, as we record this show on April 11th, 2023, just last week I had 3 examples of advisors/financial world people that generally used to not recommend annuities, and here they are. So if you will, let me kind of share these 3. The first one, this was kind of actually funny. I got an invitation, Aaron, to attend a workshop, a free workshop at our local library in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Okay. I thought, okay, well, libraries, that's kind of an unassuming place. It was really slick, too. This was from a charitable organization advertising a free seminar for retirement. Now, do you think there might just be something in that for them, or are they just doing that from the goodness of their heart?
I think they're just bored and they got nothing else to do. I'm sure all the billionaires are just hosting free seminars because they got nothing else to do. No, they're trying to make money.
There you go. So you got to say, well, what's the hook? Why would somebody spend their time helping me plan retirement, especially at a very friendly environment at a library? I mean, there's no free steak dinners to entice you, none of that. No slick presentations, apparently. But I looked at the invitation closely, and of all the bullet points of what you will learn, okay, I'm not knocking the workshop. If you want to go to the library and see what they have to say, but I'm going to tell you what's going to happen, because the very last thing says how to keep from running out of money. Code word, listen, folks, annuities. Okay, so when you see these invitations, how to not outlive your money, how to keep from running out of money, how to guarantee an income you could never outlive, folks, any of those types of bullet points will let you understand that they will be talking to you about annuities, and somebody at some point, I don't care if it's after the library presentation, you can go to these universities for these same type of thing. The shtick is at the end, they're going to want to talk to you and they're going to want to sell you an annuity. Just mark it down, and which is fine, but you have to understand that when they're going to say that annuity, you got to figure out, is there going to be a game plan so you can understand what annuity is right for you, because there's literally hundreds of different annuities out there. So what I recently did is I came up with what I call a glossary of terms to help my prospective clients and even clients better understand what I call the 4 main asset classes for savers in retirement planning. So let me start with the first one. The first one is what's called a brokerage account. Now, a brokerage account is very similar to your 401k investments. We offer brokerage accounts through Charles Schwab, and we charge a fee of 0.8% to manage those. We pick the funds. We have different portfolios. There's stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, even bank products, CDs we can get through Schwab. Generally, you have to take some risk with those. They can go up, they can go down. It's very similar to your 401k, and while we can manage that risk for you, the main purpose that we use brokerage accounts is not to try to grow your money at all costs and see if we can make you a gajillion dollars. It's there for liquidity and current income so we can have access to some of your money. Many of you people, folks, are running out and throwing all your money in these annuities. You're going to limit your access. As someone that's literally got over 3,000 clients, most of them retired, I can tell you one thing's going to happen. Things will change, and you may need access to some of that money. So don't lock it all up in one annuity. That's foolish, folks. Don't do that, all right? So that's a brokerage account. That's your first asset class. Now, the second asset class and the third and the fourth all revolve around the different categories of annuities we use when we're doing retirement planning. We may use all of these for a particular prospective client, or we may not, but let me give you the 3 asset classes. The first is what's called a short-term accumulation annuity. These are generally 5 years or less in terms of the surrender term, meaning at the end of 5 years, if you wanted to take the full value of the annuity out without any penalties whatsoever, you could do that. An accumulation annuity is a fixed annuity. It is not a variable annuity. It's guaranteed, the principal, and it may even have a guaranteed interest rate. As we record this show, our guaranteed 5-year annuities are paying almost 5% a year, guaranteed. Again, that's no fees either. So a short-term accumulation also comes with no fees. The second asset class, or third asset class, second type of annuity class, is called a long-term accumulation annuity, which generally these are what we call our fixed indexed annuities, linked to the market, no risk, usually no fees. With a fixed indexed annuity, if the market goes up, you're going to make a percentage of the stock market. If it goes down, you don't lose a penny. So with the thousands of fixed indexed annuities we've written, nobody lost any money in 2022, although the market tanked. So very, very safe products, generally no fees. And then finally, my favorite,
Mailbox money.
The mailbox money, or what we call the income annuity. Now, generally, they can come with fees, and generally they last, it's a 10-year term. So this is long-term stuff. You don't want to put your money in a mailbox type annuity if, let's say, you didn't have a long time to live or you had a very short life expectancy. This is for the person that really and truly is worried about running out of money. They love the idea of a guaranteed income that's set, that's there for them and their partner even. These are called income annuities, and they're very, very long-term. I always like to say, once you put your money in these, although you can take 10% out penalty-free if you need it, they're really for long-term planning. So those are the 4 asset classes, and what we do at Tony Walker Financial, we bring in our expertise, the fiduciaries that are on staff to assist me, and all of the wonderful staff that implements our game plans to put your assets, your 401k, your savings under one roof in an area that you can understand, you can use and enjoy without the fear of running out of money. So that's you right now. Number one, you may not even have a fiduciary you're working with, but if you want a game plan that includes somebody that's knowledgeable in the field called retirement planning, we need to talk. And we could do that by setting up something we call the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. So to take advantage of talking to me, Tony Walker, the owner of the company, do this right now. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started button. Or if you like, you can simply call us at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's show. Don't forget, next week, our topic is why Wall Street hates commissions. But between now and then, I'm Tony Walker. If all else fails, you remember to be worry-free and you make it a good one.